They got him! That's right, the University of Virginia shooting suspect has been captured and is in custody after the manhunt went from Sunday into late on Monday. So we'll be talking about that, what that means, and, well, what's going to happen with the story afterwards, because it's pretty much going to disappear in quite a hurry. In other news, votes in Colorado 3 won't be done being counted until the end of next week, as the balance of the Congress sits wondering what's going to happen with this particular race and a couple of the other races that are out there. So we'll be talking all things election, including Katie Hobbs, because that seems to be the one that's on everybody's mind. So we'll go over some of that. The New York Times admits that the FBI had as many as 8 informants in the Proud Boys for the January 6th Selfie Fest. So we'll go over some of that, what that means, and, well, I'm going to come out and say it right now. 1 person is an informant. 8 informants is an op. But we'll talk about that and what that means and where we go with that. And Donald Trump is in the news right away after the midterms because he failed to comply with the subpoena. It is going to be all this and more. Welcome back to the end of midterm season. Still, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Have you noticed election denier is their new racist? And it's been something I kind of held on to as we were talking about things yesterday, and especially as I was organizing the news for yesterday as well. Wow, I got a little tuft of hair going up the top there, a little Pebbles Flintstone thing going on up the top of my head. But yeah, you notice that that's the way that they go now, and there's always a label, and whether it is, I mean, they call it, what did they do before Trump? It was always racist, xenophobe, misogynist, etc. They actually had a list of them before Trump and even into the Trump years. But as the Trump years went on, I mean, the Donald and a lot of the people who followed the Donald, instead of cowering away in fear like they used to do, because I've been in like the Scott Walker comment sections over on Facebook and whatnot, and that's where they always went is, oh, you're just a racist Republican. All Republicans are racist. That's why they chose a party with the name of an R on that. All Republicans, please remove the American flags from your lapels because you are no longer American, and that kind of rhetoric that goes along with this. But, you know, racist stopped working. I know they tried to go with white supremacists for a while, but I think a lot of people have figured out that, and I'm gonna talk about this when we get to the Pride Boys here later on here. A lot of these people that are in the white supremacist camp, I think a lot of people are catching on to that. I think at least a few of them are plants to come in here to try to goad and get people to come in and say, hey, don't you want to hate all black people with me? Come on, you know. I'm losing a lot of trust for the official narrative by the day. But we'll talk about that later on as well. But yeah, it's with the election and everything going on here, it's been a mess. And yeah, the big thing is, you're an election denier. You don't want to be an election denier. We might make you go out and lose your job because you're an election denier. And all I keep thinking is, well, spare me. It's not denying an election to ask questions. I do find it funny that you don't want to answer the questions, but it's not denying an election to ask the question. So that's what we have for that. We got to get into the news. We got to get started here. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, the Porch Boys. Go check out Overruled with KTZed, Tweets by a Brit, Mr. Behavior, obviously. Go check out the No Gimmicks podcast and PJ Patriot as well, as we continue to go forward with our goal, and my goal especially, of bringing you news from the common man for the common man. That's right, bypassing the people who wear suits that cost more than your house, because they've not had to make the same decisions you've had. So they don't need to have the same information, and they definitely don't want you to have the same information that they have. So with that, let's look into the finance. Let's look and see where the country is going with that and where we go from there. Looking in at the Dow to start. The Dow is at 33,536.70. That is down throughout the day. It actually tried to climb. It stayed somewhat down throughout the day, and then it just tanked out at the end to bring itself down over 200 points at the very end of the day to 33,536.70. And it does look like, with the Fed chief being the one to throw the cold water on this, a lot of this is coming from the fact that, he's saying that inflation is still coming. You guys got one good data point, and again, I remind everybody that nobody's talking about the fact that the numbers that we're getting now on the inflation are not good numbers. 7.7 isn't a good number by itself, but add that on top of the fact that it was on top of 6.3 from the year before, and you've got a recipe for compounding disaster that you don't want to go with. Even if you get 5% inflation at this time next year, that is 5.5% on top of 7.7% on top of 6.3. Your dollar is worthless at that point, but that's what we have for that. Looking in at the Bitcoin, which is still on sale, dipping as low as 16.5 throughout the day here, but steadily climbing back to 16,837.80 with a couple of drop-offs on the way. Pulling this out so we can see what happened yesterday, it looks like there was a spike up above the 17,000 mark, and then a drop back off to settle into the 16,000 range. So it's still what I would consider to be on sale. It's still well below that 20,000 mark. So if you're looking to have something, if you're interested in crypto, this is not official financial advice, but of course, never ever empty any of your retirement savings, your 401k, or mortgage your house, or take it on credit, or do anything like that on credit with Bitcoin. But if it's something you're curious about, maybe take a $20 bill and throw it at the Bitcoin and see what comes back out of it, especially when it's on one of the low points. Not official financial advice. It's the way that I do crypto, and I've had a little bit of fun with it without having to bet out the rent money and the food money. So that's what we see coming up out of the Bitcoin. Looking into the gas prices, the gas around the Madison area, charting the same area as we continue to go over and over again. The gas prices have held steady throughout the day yesterday. The BP on the north side is still at 350. The quick trip entering the isthmus is at 360. The Amoco on the isthmus is at 350. The BP out to the east side is at 369. The quick trip to the east side is to 350, matching its west side counterpart, also at 350. The Speedway is the high price on Highway 18 at 380, and the Exxon is at 360. So a nice big smattering of prices here that is staying right in this range. It's just the one drop down to catch up with its counterpart that had already been dropping on the far west side. So a few things off of that. Let's have a look at what IBD has to say for the morning. From Investors Business Daily, Walmart sets a high bar for Target as earnings roll in. From Alan Farley, a name that we haven't heard from this before. This might not give us our futures. In fact, I'm going to look at that right now because that's not the report that I want. That's a nice good report on the retail. Yes, here's the report that I want. We're going to use this one instead. Dow futures rally on cool inflation data. Walmart surges on earnings. From Scott Latonin. Dow futures rose more than 400 points Tuesday after a cooler than expected reading in the Producer Price Index, a key inflation gauge. Dow stocks Home Depot and Walmart reported their quarterly earnings results ahead of the market open. Among the top stocks to watch and buy, IBD leaderboard stock Arista Networks, IBD Swing Trader stock General Motors, and Global Foundries, Mobileye, Phillips 66, the gas company, as well as Dow Jones named Caterpillar are among top stocks to buy and watch. Arista is on the IBD leaderboard and watch list stock. Arista was also featured in last week's Stocks Near Buy Zone column, as well as Monday's Stock of the Day. Global Foundries was also a recent IBD stock of the day, and Mobileye was last week's featured IPO leader. Ahead of Tuesday's open, Dow futures rose a full percent, while the S&P moved up 1.7. The tech-heavy Nasdaq advanced 2.7 in morning action, boosted by China stocks extending their recent rally. JD.com popped almost 8%. NetEase clocked in at 6% again. The iShares MSCI China ETF rallied 4.3%, and the Crane Shares CSI China Network swept more than 7% higher. Among the ETFs, the Nasdaq Invesco QQQ Trust traded up 3% early Tuesday, and the SPDR S&P 500 gained 2. The 10-year yield dipped to 3.76 on Tuesday after cooler inflation data. Meanwhile, U.S. oil prices declined nearly 1%. As oil continues to slosh back and forth within its recent trading range, West Texas Intermediate futures held just above $85 a barrel. So, a few things that are running with this, but this is not something that I would trust, and I do fear. Number one, now that we've got the heating bills coming in here, where inflation goes and what happens with that, and consumer confidence as well. While the producer price index may stay steady, and again, this is not good news. Seeing numbers like we're seeing from the producer price index, these are not good news points. But the media will come back to try to spin this and say, oh, this is fantastic, look at this. Oh, don't worry about what happened last year on inflation. Just look, it dropped down to 7.7. And it is a scam. And there's going to be somebody left holding the bag. And I do fear for some of the people who might be the ones that are left holding the bag. But that's what we get for that. Let's look into the main news of the day, and we're going to start with Virginia. From CNN, student suspect in custody after 3 football players shot dead and 2 people wounded at the University of Virginia, police say. From Deccan and Doan, Michelle Watson, Carolyn Sung, and Amir Vera. Police have in custody a University of Virginia student and ex-UVA football player suspected of fatally shooting 3 current players and wounding 2 other people late on Sunday at the school's main campus in Charlottesville as a bus returned from a class trip, school officials said. The suspect, Christopher Darnell Jones Jr., faces 3 charges of second-degree murder and 3 counts of using a handgun in the commission of a felony. UVA Police Chief Timothy Longo Sr. told reporters on Monday as an hours-long manhunt came to an end and authorities lifted a campus lockdown order. Jones was arrested without incident around 11 a.m. Eastern Time, about 80 miles east of Charlottesville in Henrico County. The county police agency said in a statement an officer spotted the vehicle Jones was driving in the eastern area of Henrico when he was taken into custody without incident, according to the news released from the police division. Police have not offered a motive for the attack. Those killed were Devin Chandler, Lavelle Davis Jr., and Deshaun Perry, University President Jim Ryan said. The 2 wounded students are being treated at UVA Medical Center, with one in critical condition and the other in good condition, he said, declining to name them, which is probably a decent idea, at least until they find a motive. This is sad, shocking, and tragic day for our UVA community, Ryan said. Let me say how deeply sorry I am for the victims and their families and friends. Carla Williams, UVA Athletics Director, said in a statement that as a mother herself, she aches for the parents and family members of the victims. We lost 3 talented, young, and bright men, Williams said. We will never see what their impact on the world would have been, but we will never forget their impact on us. I miss Lavelle, Deshaun, and Devon. I pray for peace, comfort, and hope with their parents and loved ones. Alright, let's look at what's going on with this. Let's have a glance at this for a second. We have Christopher Darnell Jones Jr., who is known by his middle name, Darnell. Although you're not going to see a lot of that from the mainstream news media. In fact, you're probably going to see a lot of Christopher Jones Jr., I would almost bet. Another report, and, scrolling through this, I see the victims, but I see the officer. I see a little tiny photo down here, way down to the bottom, also under suspect have been known to campus police, but a little tiny photo, all the way down, halfway through the article, of the suspect, who, by the way, looks like he's been very, very much lightened, with 3 darkened photos coming off of this. This news story is going to disappear. Number 1, wrong skin tone of the perpetrator, obviously. And number 2, look down through the 3 charges. Second-degree murder. And 3 charges of using a handgun in the commission of a felony. That's right. It wasn't the scary black AR rifle. And it wasn't some white supremacist. Because it happened in a college, I think that's what even made the news to begin with. Because usually something like this would just never make the news. But because it happened somewhere on a school campus and parents had to get involved because everybody was on lockdown, this was one that they couldn't just run down and hide. But without the scary black AR rifle, nobody's going to care about this in a couple days. The David Hoggs of the world can get up on their platforms and say, I should be able to go to school without having to worry about gun violence. But even, again, he's going to forget about this because, I want to be realistic with the news media here. If they do go after the actual firearm that's used in the commission of the majority of mass shooting events, then they actually have to pay attention to what's happening in Chicago. And that does not work well for the narrative. Somebody want to nuke that? I can. Bye-bye. Ooh, double timeout. But at least they got the guy, and at least everybody in UVA can get back out and go back and enjoy their lives again. Yeah, I pointed it out yesterday that the fact that it happened in Charlottesville made me question whether or not it was actually real or an op. Alright. Looking in at the next news story, catch up again from yesterday. From the Daily Mail, pictured the 6 airmen who died during the Veterans Day, Wings Over Dallas show when a B-17 collided midair with Bell P-63 King Cobra as spectators watched in horror. Experienced pilots were captains for American Airlines and United. Wow, that actually makes me have a lot more questions. So here are the 6 guys that passed away in this one here. We have Terry Barker and Len Root, both part of the B-17 crew. Major Curtis Rowe, a 30-year veteran of the Civilians Air Patrol Wing. Kevin Michaels. Dan Reagan on the left. Which is weird because I was to the understanding you're not allowed to fly. Well, I guess it's not really commercial anymore though either. When you have glasses, that's part of the reason I'm not a pilot right now. That was my first choice for a career, by the way, was pilot. And Captain Craig Hutane. So, again, I'm very curious about this one here because it seems like everybody was very experienced. Everybody knew what was going on. Maybe a little bit older because they were retirees, but these are people that are flying major airlines. Well, the major airlines are kind of flying themselves by this point, but you get where I'm going with that. Let's see. The B-17 bomber appeared to stray into the blind spot of the P-63 King Cobra as the historic World War II era planes collided about 1:30 p.m. on Saturday. Video posted online shows a P-63 King Cobra approaching the flight path of a Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress bomber. The bomber appears to fly by the P-63's blind spot, and the planes collide, ripping the tail off the bomber, sending both aircraft plummeting to the ground. A second video shows a different angle, shows how the B-17 approaches the blind spot of the King Cobra as it was banking left. The front of the B-17 broke apart from the tail, the wings caught on fire and spiraled to the ground nearby. So, a few things looking with that. I don't know how this happens, because this seems, again, like a lot of people who are very experienced, and I understand that accidents happen. But these are people who have hundreds of hours, thousands of hours of flight time logged. So, Godspeed and good rest to the rest of to everybody who was involved in this. Because, yeah, after we saw the fiery explosion, nobody's really walking away from that. And I think it's fair to say that these people probably died doing what they loved as well. But still, I do have a lot of questions about this. All right, let's look election coverage. Are we ready to be election deniers? Do you want to deny an election with me, fellow patriots? All right, let's look in at the results at first. As of right now, all the Senate races have been called except for Georgia, which is headed to a runoff on December 6th. And by the way, there is a buttload of money that's being poured into that race. I do hope that Georgia gets at least a little bit rich off of all that, because all that money is coming from all the rest of the country, from both sides. So we do have that. Democrats hold 48 seats with other parties, independents. Is it Angus King, Ron Helton said, and then Bernie Sanders. Neither one of them counting as a Democrat, but both caucus with Democrats, showing that Democrats do hold the 50 that they need, with the GOP to 49. And the major question coming out of this being, will this be a 50-50 Senate, or will this be a 51-49 Senate? And by the way, at a 51-49, will they make the push to crush the filibuster and then hammer their agenda through? So that's something we will continue to watch. On the House side, it does look like the GOP will take the House. How they will do that, I'm not sure, but you know, there's still time for all these places in California to flip and go blue, and Colorado to go blue, and everybody to come here. But at this count stands right now with 218 for the majority. The GOP has 217 seats. The Democrats have 205. The GOP has gained 8 seats. The Democrats have lost 8 seats. So right now, it almost looks like everything that's out there, with the exception of Alaska, is incumbency. So we will see where this goes, where we have that, and the governor's race. The Arizona race has been called. Katie Hobbs has apparently won against Kari Lake, and that's going to be some of the top coverage that we're doing today. So that leaves us with Alaska still up in the air, with 25 Republican governors and 24 Democrat governors. Although I have questions about this one. So that's what we see on the general overview of the election coverage. Let's look at some of the individual stories. Starting with Fox News, Arizona governor election, Katie Hobbs defeats GOP challenger Kari Lake. Race may now go to recount under state law. From Bradford Betts. The Fox News Indecision Desk can project that Democrat Secretary of State Katie Hobbs will be the next governor of Arizona. She defeats GOP candidate and former local news host Kari Lake. Per Arizona law, the race may go into a recount. Lake is a former TV news anchor who stepped down last year after 22 years with the Fox affiliate in Phoenix to run for governor. Thanks in part to her... Oh, so she stepped down from her position, but Katie Hobbs did not. Interesting. Thanks in part to her strong support for former President Trump. This and his unproven claims that the 2020 election was stolen. I love when Fox News does the editorial thing too. And rigged. Trump endorsed and heavily backed Lake as she narrowly won the GOP nomination over a candidate backed by Doug Ducey. Lake highlighted her common-sense conservatism as she centered her campaign on the issue of border security, homelessness, banning CRT in Arizona classrooms, support for school choice, and opposition to abortion. Hobbs, a former social worker who later served in the Arizona State House and State Senate, was elected Hong Kong Secretary of State in 2018. Hobbs gained national attention for defending Arizona's election results. It was one of the handful of states where now President Biden narrowly edged Trump, as then president unsuccessfully tried to overturn the results. Open the bottle before you drink out of it. She stressed her support for protecting abortion rights during her campaign, and she also emphasized her plan to work with law enforcement and border communities to beef up Arizona's border security with Mexico. How long do you think it's going to take before the shipping containers are gone and that Yuma border is wide open? Lake heavily criticized Hobbs for refusing to take part in gubernatorial debates. Hobbs said that debating Lake would result in giving a platform to conspiracy theories. So, there you go. According to Fox News, it's over. I have a lot of questions about this. I really do. Especially in the polling because, we're sitting up here with plus 11% in the polls. This should have been a walking away win. A lot of people are trying to explain this back away. So, well, young people they came out in force and they don't participate in polls. I don't know how much I believe this. Now, once again, if you look through the Arizona Constitution, once Katie Hobbs puts her hands on the Bible and says, I swear to uphold the laws that are passed by the Arizona legislature as governess, and I swear to do what it is that my handlers tell me to, so help me God, I so solemnly swear, there will be no mechanism to change this. So I do want to offer a little bit of advice to Kari Lake and some of the others. I don't know how the challenges and the recounts are going to go. I'm going to say that right off the bat. I don't know how any of these are going to go. What I do know is there is problem with coming back and focusing on what happened in 2020 and now 2022. Once everybody is seated, the first thing that you need to do is sit down and work with everybody, affect the local laws, affect voter registration, and make sure that this never happens again. Most states don't have any mechanism in their constitution to overturn an election if they find out that it was, if there were problems with it in a simulation after the fact. That's one of the things that I've criticized the former president for. Even though I totally, Susan, on YouTube, believe that Biden won 81 million votes and is the most popular president. Even though I totally believe that, 100%. This message was censored for YouTube purposes. Even though I 100% believe that, Donald Trump should have dropped it as soon as he put his hand on the Bible. And again, focused on making sure that it doesn't happen in the future. Let's look at NPR for just a moment. NPR saying Arizona Democrat Katie Hobbs elected governor over Trump-backed Republican Kari Lake. Coming to National Progressive Radio from KJZZ 91.5's Ben Giles. And remember, even though NPR didn't write this themselves, they do still need our money, comrade, to tell you why it is that Republicans are bad and capitalism is bad, and you should only be supporting communism, progressivism, and socialism. So hit that donate button, because it's not your money, comrade, it's our money. NPR is never printing reality. National Progressive Radio. Let's see what they have to say. After days of ballot counting, Arizona Democrat Katie Hobbs has been elected governor in a hotly contested race against election denying. The editorialism. I mean, you knew it was coming. It's NPR, but still, the editorialism. Election denying Republican Carrie Lake, who was endorsed by former President Trump, according to a race call by the Associated Press. The victory is a relief to Arizona Democrats who spent much of the campaign wringing their hands over whether Hobbs, the current Secretary of State in Arizona, could defeat the made-for-TV Lake, who spent 22 years at a local Fox affiliate, much of it as a news anchor. Most polls ahead of the election showed Lake with a slight lead in the race. Lake showed a knack for garnering headlines while antagonizing reporters in her first-ever campaign. She ran on an unabashedly pro-Trump agenda, promising to declare an invasion along the southern border, and voicing support for the state's pre-statehood abortion ban, alongside a slate of Trump-endorsed candidates who won their primaries in the swing state of Arizona. Following the primary, Lake even boasted of driving a stake in the heart of the McCain machine, an unfriendly nod to Arizona's conservative establishment, conservative, globalist, uniparty, that's been overrun by allies of Trump in Arizona. For her part, Hobbs ran a far more subdued, traditional campaign in a race she often described as a choice between sanity and chaos. Hobbs made national headlines and faced withering criticism for her refusal to debate Lake. Hobbs focused on messaging that would cross party lines and appeal to Arizona's influential independent voters, and even some Republicans who've grown tired of Trump. In 2020, Biden became just the second Democrat presidential candidate to win Arizona since 1948. Honk honk. So, as of right now, it does look indeed like Hobbs will be the nominee. However, they're outside of a 0.5% threshold. I don't know. I would have to look into Arizona state law to see if it's 1% that triggers the automatic recount. I know they're talking about 0.5% in the House race for Lauren Boebert, which we'll be talking about that in just a moment. In my state, in Wisconsin, for a statewide race, it is a 1% margin. Honk honk. Tony Evers. They found just enough ballots in a trunk with a gluing error at 2 o'clock in the morning in Milwaukee. And they were just enough to bring Tony Evers to a 1.1% margin at the end of the night. While they were running within a 0.5 point of each other throughout the entire night. I was watching that race closely while it was happening. But that is what they have for that. What else do we have? Kyle Becker asking questions. And again, I am not going to come out and say that there was a shenanigan, that there was any wrongdoing. But I will point out, first off, that I do have a lot of questions about this, that it will probably never be answered. And also the fact that if you ask the questions, you're considered to be an evil election denier. Kyle Becker pointing out, here's what state election that makes no sense looks like. So we come down here on the statewide races for Arizona. U.S. Senate, Mark Kelly over Blake Masters, 51.7 to 46.3. Similar vote totals in all the races. Katie Hobbs, 50.6 to 49.4. Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes versus Fincham Mark, who Fontes at 52.6 will be the next one who's overseeing how the election gets organized and done. AG Chris Maez over Hamada Abe, on a within 1 point race for AG, and Superintendent of Public Education, 50.1 to 49.9. All similar vote numbers, so it's not like they just dumped all votes into one race or something like that. However, when you go to state treasurer, somehow, instead of vote blue no matter who, just people split the ticket and decided that they needed to have that one state treasurer, Kimberly Yee, winning 55.4 to 44.6. Now, again, I don't vote in Arizona because I don't live in Arizona. I don't necessarily have a horse in these races, but I do have questions about them. I'm not saying that anything bad happened. Don't ban me, Susan. But I am saying that, can I actually ask a question, or is that just the instant ban hammer just for asking the question? That's where we're at with that. Moving on to Colorado, as promised. From 9 News NBC, U.S. House race between Lauren Boebert and Adam Frisch is still extremely tight. From Wilson Bies of the Associated Press. The race for Colorado's 3rd between Lauren Boebert and Adam Frisch was still too close to call on Monday, with a few thousand more ballots to count. As of Monday, Boebert was ahead of Frisch by 1,122 votes, according to the State Secretary of State's office. The Associated Press estimated 99% of votes have been counted. Frisch said the Secretary of State's office and county clerks in his district told him that there are between 3,000 and 6,000 more ballots left to be counted. Some of these ballots that need to be cured. Others are votes that were sent in from outside the country, like military ballots. In Colorado, recounts are automatically initiated when the margin is less than 0.5%. Of course, I don't have permission to access elections on this server. Boebert was lagging behind expectations in House District 3, which covers all of the western slope and much of southern Colorado. The tight race garnered national attention as control of the House of Representatives remains undecided. I'm pretty sure it's decided at this point. At 217 to 205, I'm pretty sure it's decided. Although, again, I remind you that because of what's happening with McCarthy, I'm almost positive at this point Nancy Pelosi is going to be the speaker again. Just based on the number of seats that we have left to come back out and find out. There are 13 seats. And unless you get pretty much all 13 of them, you're not in a majority position where you can afford to go back and play the games like that. I would say 95% sure Nancy Pelosi is the speaker again, although the speaker under a party that's not under her control. Voters in the district haven't elected a Democrat to Congress since 2008 if Boebert loses. It would be another hit to disappointing results for the GOP on Tuesday after the anticipated red wave never made the shore. Honk honk. But Boebert and her supporters weren't considering that option on Thursday. We're confident Lauren will win re-election, said Courtney Perrella, a spokeswoman for the National Republican Congressional Committee, whose mission is to elect Republicans to the House of Representatives. Frisch told 9 News that he'll likely be waiting for several more days to see whether he can make up the deficit. Just find me 1,000 more votes, 1,100 more votes, that's all we need to find. Didn't they impeach a guy over that? I'm pretty confident that we're going to close the gap. Whether we can close the gap and get over the humps is something that we'll have to see, Frisch said on Sunday. I don't think we're going to see any big news until Thursday afternoon or Friday from what we're hearing from the Secretary of State. So, ballot curing and recount and recount and recount. I'll count until the state is mine. The Pueblo Chieftain, a subsidiary of the USA Today, with Colorado CD3 race outcome undecided. Adam Frisch attending new member orientation. Honk honk from Anna Lynn Winfrey. While counties in Colorado's 3rd District continue to upload results from the hotly contested race between incumbent Rep. Lauren Boebert and challenger Adam Frisch, for a few days after the November 8th election, new results have come to a standstill as most county clerks have paused reporting after counting the bulk of domestic ballots. It's unclear how many exactly, but at least a few thousand outstanding ballots need to be counted in the 27 counties across Colorado's 3rd. Frisch, who trails Boebert by 1,100 votes, has not conceded the race because of these thousands of votes that have not yet been counted. Nearly 323,000 votes have been counted across the congressional district. Which, by the way, it's a little bit funny as far as, calling the race. Frisch recently traveled to D.C. to attend new member orientation, as have a few other congressional candidates from across the country who are in still undecided races, because it's in the best interest of the district for me to attend new member orientation given the closeness of this race, which could be unsettled for another month, he said in a statement. So let's walk back and talk about this. Now, with still a large amount of the vote and question about the integrity of the vote out there, the Associated Press was comfortable to call Arizona, even though Masters and Lake have not conceded. The same with who is challenging Laxalt in Nevada. I'm sorry, the same with Laxalt because it was Cortez Masto in Nevada. But yet, with something coming down the line with almost everything counted, although I will say that because that one's going to a recount, I will give some leeway to this, but I mean, if this was going the other way, I'm pretty sure the Associated Press would have called it for Frisch at this point. They had all but called it on election night. Boebert got stomped. She should have just conceded on election night. But that's what they have for that. An op-ed from CNN, Lauren Boebert's unexpectedly tight race shows the waning power of the MAGA brand. Honk honk from Sarah Lenti. Editor's note, Sarah Lenti is a political strategist and policy advisor to the Carter Center. She served as a director on the National Security Council under Condoleezza Rice during the W administration. Okay, so maybe I should probably just ignore this one, because that should be disqualifying in and of itself. And worked as a lead researcher for Romney's 2010 book, No Apology, The Case for American Greatness. Also a reason that maybe we should just skip this one. But we will see what's happening from this. Please note that this is an opinion piece. The opinions laid out in this piece are not necessarily the opinions of CNN, Contemporary, Turn Some Pages Productions, or your host, Jay Edgar. Let's read what Sarah Lenti has to say. Oh, Colorado. If there's one thing that is true about Colorado, it's that we're fiercely unpredictable, an enigma, really. We are urban, we are rural. We love our après-ski in Aspen, and we flock to the Western Stock Show in Denver. In this latest election, we voted to legalize medicinal psychedelics because we're so open-minded and progressive. But we said no to a measure allowing an increase in number of large retail liquor stores because we're a little old school and love our small businesses. In true Enigma fashion, we resoundingly re-elected Jared Polis over Heidi Ganahl, but the Trump-endorsed Lauren Boebert is still locked in a tight race against Adam Frisch. In District 3, a district that has greater representation of unaffiliated voters than Republicans or Democrats. While redistricting made the race more competitive, many of Boebert's constituents in western Colorado have criticized her for being too focused on media attention and angertainment, and being disruptive with her antics. Some might say that she is all hat and no cattle, rather. The Trump acolyte was busy claiming her right to tote a gun in and around the U.S. Capitol, name-calling, heckling President Joe Biden, and speaking favorably about QAnon conspiracy theories. That's right, evil election denier. Voters in Colorado 3, even those who voted for her in 2020, have indicated that they're tired of Boebert's behavior and want her to fundraise less and listen more to what the diverse constituents in her district need. To his credit, Adam Frisch, the city councilman from Aspen, has run a solid campaign. Frisch has cast himself as a pragmatic, calm, and competent alternative to Boebert. During their debate in September, Frisch hammered Boebert for her legislative record, pointing out that none of the bills she sponsored or co-sponsored passed in the House. Would that be the House that was under the iron grip of Nancy Pelosi? Let's see what she does in a majority. Frisch was also intent on building a coalition of normal that would include more moderate Republicans, more McCainite and Bushite Republicans, and independents in the district. He logged more than 23,000 miles across a district the size of Mississippi to meet with the voters, take questions, and more importantly, listen. As we wait for the final results in the race in District 3, we can preemptively say this. The MAGA brand is not what it once was in southwestern Colorado. Moreover, the double whammy of aligning with Trump while failing to legislate has proven to alienate voters. Should Boebert eke out a victory, she would be well served to lose the Circus Act, especially if she was going to don the cowgirl hat. And should Adam Frisch prove victorious, he would be well served to listen, legislate, stay calm, and carry on. Well, here's the thing. If Adam Frisch does manage to get into there, with the numbers being currently what they are, and what they look like they'll be, possibly 223 to the majority against him, I would bet that come next year he doesn't have any bills passed either. Odd. But that's what Sarah Lenti has to say. Lauren Boebert in danger as rejected mail-in ballot checks could help rival. From Julia Carbonaro. The race for Colorado 3 remains too close to be called. Lauren Boebert currently on a slight lead ahead of her rival, Adam Frisch. But the incumbent's narrow lead could once again be overturned if thousands of likely rejected votes in favor of her challenger were to be cured as recount looms over the Colorado race. Every year in Colorado, thousands of ballots are reportedly rejected for issues related to signature verification, such as a missing signature or a discrepancy in the signature. Local officials alert voters to the issue, giving them a week to fix the problem and make their vote count. The process, which is done in 23 other states beside Colorado, is called ballot curing. Could also be called ballot finding, but again, we've got to walk that line because of YouTube. Boebert was widely projected to win in the midterms, with polling website 538 giving her 97 to 100% and a chance to victory in the days ahead of the vote. As of November 14th, with nearly all the ballots being counted, Boebert is leading with 50.1% of the vote against Frisch's 49.8%. A recount could be called if the final margin between Boebert and Frisch is less than or equal to 0.5% of the leading candidate's vote total. At that moment, the gap between the two candidates is 0.38%. Now, both parties are out there in a desperate effort to go back out and cure and go and check the curing on the other side. I don't know what is going to happen with this. I don't know if this is going to come out in Boebert's favor. I don't know if this is going to come out in Frisch's favor. But it does seem to me like they can suddenly come back out and find a bunch of votes. Just find me 1,100 votes. That's all I need. Same thing in Clark County, by the way. Nearly 10,000 ballots secure in Clark County by Monday. This is an old article. This is from the 11th. I'm actually going to skip over this one because they all got cured and Katie Hobbs suddenly jumped ahead. Also from Friday, well, I'm going to skip over this one too. These were both on curing, but I do want to get onto this one. The Culinary Union tracking down Nevada voters with ballots that need to be cured. Once again, kind of sounding to me like this is, I need to find ballots. That's all we need to do. Find me 1,100 more ballots. from Kim Passaw. Thousands of votes cast in Nevada may not count because of issues with voter signature. Hundreds of volunteers with the Culinary Union are trying to make sure every one of those votes counts. They're going through a list of nearly 10,000 names and reaching out to voters whose ballots need to be cured. With so many tight races yet to be called, the Culinary Union says they're running the largest signature cure effort statewide in Nevada. Yeah, I wonder which direction those votes are going to be going. Huh. Oh, this vote here, this has a signature problem. Oh, let's look at this. Oh, this was for Adam Laxalt. RIP. We didn't see that one. Oh, we're sorry. No, there wasn't a vote there for that. We're not going to go out and try to get that one cured. We think this may be the most important election in a long time, said Ted Pape-George, a Culinary Union Secretary-Treasurer. About 200 members are now working to ensure every ballot that needs to be cured will be by Monday's 5 p.m. deadline. These volunteers are going through a list from the registrar's office and reaching out to the voters on it by visiting them at home or giving them a call. I actually got a call by Culinary volunteers. I received 2 calls and a text message, recounted Athar Hasibullah, who happens to be the head of the ACLU. Yeah, I wonder why he got a call. Happened to be one of those ballots who need one of those whose ballot needed curing. I'm assuming my signature when I registered to vote like many years ago has probably evolved over the years to where it is now, Hasibullah explained. Oh. You know how you could actually fix all that? Clear the voter rolls and have you register every year. No, we'll never do that. That would make sense. But yes, that's their next big thing, is to go back out and cure 10,000 ballots. From the Daily Wire, Nevada County confirms a live stream video of vote count areas went dark for 8 hours, response to criticism. County officials in Nevada over the weekend confirmed that the cameras live streaming the vote counting areas on Wednesday night and Thursday morning went dark for a total of 8 hours. We know that our election live stream cameras went dark overnight. We investigated what happened and how to prevent it happening again, Washoe County's Twitter account posted on Thursday afternoon. Unsurprisingly, the tweet went viral, racking up thousands of reactions, which included questions concerning election integrity. The livestream computer application lost connection with the courtesy cameras at 11:24 p.m. on the evening of November 9th, the county said on its website. All staff had left for the night about 60 minutes earlier and did not arrive back into the office until 0700. Connection was restored at 7:53 a.m. on the morning of November 10th. Okay, can I have some sort of, any sort of justification and evidence that nobody was in and out of that building while they were dark? The courtesy cameras are connected to a computer application designed for live stream events, the county site continued. Probably OBS. They intermittently lose connection with the application. When this has happened before, such as on election night when one camera went dark, staff was still able to see the disruption and restore it. Security footage was also reviewed, and the county said, according to the Washoe County Security Administrator, the footage shows the parking garage, the hallway between the garage, and the entry doors to the registrar's office. He has confirmed that no one entered the ballot room or registrar's office during the time that the courtesy live stream went down. Notably, a U.S. Senate race in Nevada was called for Democrats on Saturday, which means the Republicans had failed to gain enough seats to take back the majority, since ties are broken by the vice president. The GOP was hopeful former state attorney general Adam Laxalt, a Republican, could flip the seat by ousting incumbent Democrat Catherine Cortez Masto. Despite Laxalt leading in prior polling, the Republican failed to best the Democrat. Nothing to see here. No, don't worry about why it went dark. Nothing to see here. In the House, for the race for the lead, Andy Biggs launches challenge against Kevin McCarthy for House Speaker. From Victor Nava. Andy Biggs announced Monday that he will challenge Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy for the Speaker's gavel. The former chairman of the House Freedom Caucus said beating McCarthy will be tough, but that he believes there needs to be a change in the institutional direction and trajectory of the House. We have a new paradigm here, and I think the country wants a different direction from the House of Representatives, Biggs said during a Monday night appearance on Newsmax. I'm going to be nominated tomorrow to the position of Speaker of the House. We'll see if we can get the job done and the votes. It's going to be tough, Biggs added. Biggs emerged as one possible challenger to the speakership last week, when he said that McCarthy's long-anticipated accession should not be considered a foregone conclusion. Let's listen.
Congressman, you're being reported as the top challenger to Kevin McCarthy. Come on. Can you confirm or deny whether or not this is true? I mean, it sounds like you're almost there. Maybe you want to announce.
Lydia, we have a new paradigm here, and I think the country wants a different direction from the House of Representatives, and it's a new world. And yes, I'm going to be nominated tomorrow to the position of Speaker of the House. We'll see if we can get the job done. And the votes, it's going to be tough. I mean, Kevin has raised a lot of money and done a lot of things, but this is not just about Kevin. I think it's about institutional direction and trajectory, and that's where we're going to see if we have enough people who agree that we need to change the trajectory of this place and open it up so where people can actually represent their constituency in a more open and transparent manner.
So let's just make this clear. It sounds like you just announced.
Yeah, I guess I did, kind of. Didn't I?
So there you have it. We have some good news tonight. Your colleague.
And look, here's the thing. And I know that there are going to be theatrics from the House Freedom Caucus. What needs to be done with this is the same thing that Democrats are going to do on the other side, especially with this challenge here. You guys need to get down, all 200, let's say 223 of you in a room, and figure out who you're going to put forward as the nominee. And everybody sit down and accept that. Otherwise, yes, you will throw that nomination to Nancy Pelosi. And Nancy Pelosi will be Speaker of the House as a Democrat over a Republican Congress. I don't oppose somebody else going up for the speakership against Kevin McCarthy. I do not. I think that's a great idea because I don't particularly care for Kevin McCarthy. I don't think it should be Andy Biggs, personally, but I do support somebody else coming out and working against Kevin McCarthy. But again, you guys need to sit down in a room behind closed doors and figure it out before you go down onto the floor. Otherwise, Pelosi will take it walking away. I don't necessarily even care who it is as long as it's not Pelosi. An interesting one that's been on the ballot, and I've got two in a row from Fox 5 both talking about this, one saying 3 counties, one saying 37. From NBC5 Chicago, 3 downstate counties vote to explore seceding from Illinois, forming a new state. This one is from Friday. I think the other one is newer. Illinois residents wanting to separate their communities from Chicago and Cook County is nothing new in the political world, but 3 counties took things a step further during the midterm elections, passing non-binding resolutions indicating they want their elected officials to potentially explore seceding from the state. These so-called separation referenda were on the ballot in Brown and Hardin counties, as well as a portion of Madison County. The thrust behind the referenda was to allow the county board of each area to coordinate with other county boards to explore the possibility of seceding from Illinois due to the influence Chicago and Cook counties have on the state's politics. Brown County, located in western Illinois, voted overwhelmingly in favor of the non-binding ballot question, with nearly 3 in 4 voters approving it. Shall the board of Brown County correspond with the boards of the other counties of Illinois outside of Cook County about the possibility of separating from Cook County to form a new state and seek admission to the union as such, subject to the approval of the people? The question read. With all 14 precincts reporting in Brown County, 1,444 votes were cast in favor of the question, representing 74% of the votes cast on the specific question. 441 votes were opposed to such a meeting. Hardin, located in southeastern Illinois, also voted on similar measures and passed it, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. The county has a population of 3,649 residents, making it the least populated county in the state. Finally, in northeastern Madison County, 74.74% of the vote went in the yes column, with 213 of the 285 ballots cast in favor of meeting with other county boards. Madison County is located along the Mississippi River in southwestern Illinois. The three counties join a group of 24 others that have passed the so-called separation referenda. In recent elections, according to Illinois Newsroom 23, these counties passed the non-binding resolutions during the 2020 elections with similar language to the referenda presented to voters in Brown, Hardin, and Madison counties. According to the Illinois Newsroom, these counties included Bond, Christian, Clark, Clay, Crawford, Cumberland, Edwards, Effingham, Fayette, Jasper, Hancock, Jefferson, Johnson, Lawrence, Marion, Massac, Moultrie, Pope, Richland, Shelby, Wabash, Wayne, and Whiteside. Jersey County also passed a non-binding referendum during the 2021 municipal election cycle, according to the group Red State Secession. The measures are non-binding, but sends a message to leaders to potentially engage in discussions with other counties to discuss the possibility of attempting to form a new state. The question of whether or not a county can secede from a state in the first place is in dispute. While advocates for secession in Illinois cite Maine's separation from Massachusetts, which occurred in 1819, because of disagreements over land speculation and other factors, most legal experts dispute the idea that a county can secede from the state. What? Alright, now the first thing I'm going to look at is I don't think that Mass and Maine would be connected. I would have to go and look in my history book. This is the first time hearing about Maine separating from Massachusetts, but I was the understanding they were already separated. Let's look at a map. So my question there is, was there a redraw of New Hampshire that caused this? Or did the state of Maine just go up and around? Or when they did separate in 1819, was there a redraw here to give New Hampshire a coastline, essentially? What little bit of it is that there is. I thought that my geography was right and that Maine didn't actually touch Massachusetts. Now I have more questions. Now I'm actually curious about this. Like, really curious about this. I'm gonna look this up later on. Matthew Simpson, a professor at the University of New Mexico, argues that because of a variety of precedents, including 1907 Hunter versus City of Pittsburgh decision, counties cannot secede from states because their rights emanate from the state that they are located in. Still, some argue that a county can secede if a state allows them to, but it would seemingly be unlikely that Illinois would allow the counties to leave. And yeah, there is that aspect of things. Let's grab the other one from NBC5. 27 counties in Illinois have passed referenda to explore seceding from the state. Here's where. So there's the map actually showing this. And it's interesting because it's not all gathered into one place. Like, I've been to Sterling, Illinois. I've not been to Mount Sterling, but I've been to Sterling. Carthage, Illinois. That's always a little bit funny here because Carthage college in Kenosha used to be in Carthage, Illinois, and for whatever reason they moved it to Kenosha. And my ex-fiance actually thought that Carthage was somewhere over here because she went to Carthage College. She thought it was somewhere over here, but no, it's all the way over here. And they just moved the entire idea all the way to Kenosha, Wisconsin for reasons unknown. Another interesting thing with that, and I'm actually kind of glad that it went that way, but I found out while doing research for actually state secession and forming new states that under the territorial law, Chicago was actually meant to be in Wisconsin, not Illinois. And they actually moved it. They moved the state line because the state line, or the territorial line, I should say, was parallel with the bottom of Lake Michigan, going all the way out to the Mississippi River. But when they were admitting Illinois, because of the way that they were doing things around the Civil War, it was slave state and free state, and you had to alternate the two to admit them to the Union, a slave state and a free state. Mississippi had just been admitted right before as a slave state. So Illinois, they wanted to make sure, because that one was up for admittance to the Union as a state instead of a territory, they wanted to make sure that that was admittable as a free state. So they came up with two ideas. First, they wanted to move the border north to get it closer up into the north, because, I mean, once you're downstate in Illinois, you're pretty much in the south at that point. You're pretty much in Kentucky. Pretty much once you get past Rockford. And there's a lot of nothing going down through there too, by the way, just so you know. Like, a lot of nothing. I've driven through it a few times. So they moved the border up to encompass Chicago and some of the counties above to there, so that Illinois would have a port to export through the St. Lawrence Seaway. It would have an urban center to deal with the union labor that the state would need for revenue to keep up with their agriculture, and to bring the border far enough north that it was considered a northern state. And boy, am I glad Chicago did not wind up in Wisconsin. But I mean, you've got a big chunk right here. The question would be, would they secede from Illinois, or would they and form a new state, which I think you'd have to get a bunch more on board throughout the rest of this year, or would they go to their respective neighbors? This chunk here becoming a part of Indiana, possibly Missouri, Carthage, Mount Sterling, and possibly the unnamed county over here becoming a part of Missouri. Sterling and Whiteside County becoming a part of Iowa. Would you do that, or would you actually come out to try to make a full state off of this? And what would it look like? We don't have the free state rules anymore, so I guess there's really nothing holding them back from splitting out. And this, by the way, and I did a lot of research for this. This was supposed to be my first one-off video, was talking about state secession back in 2018, and then Parkland happened. So I had been sitting down researching California splitting off into 3 states, the Greater Idaho Project, and ballot initiatives that have come and gone over the past few years to separate New York City from New York State, Chicago from Illinois. There's actually been referenda in Illinois to force Chicago off to make them their own state because they're so populous. Like going out from basically Rockford out to Southside Chicago into South Bend. And there is precedent that says that it's actually possible, but it does take some hoops to jump through. ABC 8 out of Dallas, actually trying to throw cold water on this. No, counties in California, Illinois, and Oregon didn't vote to secede from their state. No, they voted to see if it's feasible to do so. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. I want the live chat, not this. From Brandon Lewis and Kelly Jones. During the midterms on November 8th, there were several issues on local ballots in the country that drew national attention. Outlawing slavery, for instance, was on the ballot in 5 states. No, outlawing unpaid prison labor was on states. There's a difference. Another topic on county ballots in several states, secession. Secession is defined as the action of withdrawing formally from membership of a federation or body, especially in a political state. One tweet said that 51.26% of residents in San Bernardino County, California, voted in favor of seceding from the state. In Oregon, there's a push for several eastern counties to legally become part of Greater Idaho. And this tweet says, Illinois votes to secede from Illinois. The question, did counties in Oregon, California, and Illinois vote to secede from their states? The answer is false. No, they did not vote to secede from their states. These measures called for local officials to explore ways to secede. See, ABC 7, or ABC 8 rather, is trying to come out and draw a false equivalency. Yes. No, they didn't vote to secede, but they voted to want to secede, but stop paying attention. No, it's false. No, they definitely didn't. No, because, and we're getting into some of these points, and some of these states, by the way, are becoming populous enough where they could split off into 2 and 3. California is a really, really big one because that could be 3 full states. But if that became 3 full states, and we're sitting here, people are talking about, well, the people want to, they want to have statehood for DC and Puerto Rico because we want to have senators from them in places where it's likely that all 4 senators would go blue, thus leading to a point where they never win another election again, or lose another election again, rather. But interestingly enough, if you go in the other direction, if you talk about Illinois, a secession there, maybe taking a few of these other counties in here and actually making a southern Illinois state down here, maybe pulling Sterling along with it, but just, even if you draw the line here and go across from Carthage to Paris, that's likely a red state. That's very likely a red state. In fact, that's probably a big part of the reason that they're talking about that, is because they're a very, very red area that's being represented almost entirely by deep, deep blue Chicago. Upstate New York, splitting off from New York State. Or, I'm sorry, New York City. New York City and Long Island becoming essentially New York State, and upstate becoming the state of Albany, let's say that. That's another red state. California. If you draw the line from, let's say, Sacramento, San Francisco, Sacramento, and Los Angeles, include Oakland and stuff like that in there, there's enough people there for one really, really big populous state. And you call that California. And then you split at the line, probably about the Nevada line, or where the crook is in Nevada, rather. You split a line there, and the rest of the land becomes North and South Jefferson. But North and South Jefferson are likely not reliably blue states. There you go, you've got 4 new Republican senators. I think the only thing that they would go for in something like this is the Greater Idaho Project, where Oregon counties are planning on seceding from Oregon, but going over to Idaho, not changing the balance of the Senate. I do think that within our lifetimes we will see a change in the map for the United States, possibly the number of stars as well. Alright, we are running out of time here, so I gotta get back on the ball. Biden veers away from White House selected reporters to answer abortion question, but he immediately regrets it. I shouldn't have even answered your question, man. From Chris Enlow. President Biden disclosed Monday that abortion rights will likely not be codified into federal law. Then he admitted immediate regret for addressing the issue. After meeting with Xi Jinping, the president held a press conference in which he took questions from a predetermined list of reporters. Most popular president in history, folks. I'm told there are going to be 4 questioners, Biden said. One reporter, NBC News' Peter Alexander, was apparently not on that list, but didn't stop him from shouting a question. Mr. President, what should Americans expect from Congress as it relates to abortion rights in the midterms? Alexander asked. Biden's answer was revealing for all of his rhetoric about the importance of codifying abortion rights into federal law. After the Supreme Court overturned Roe, Biden said Americans can expect basically nothing. I don't think they can expect much of anything, other than we're going to maintain our positions. The president immediately expressed regret for answering the question. I'm not going to get to any more questions. I shouldn't have even answered your question. Despite the admission, Biden elaborated on why he believes nothing will change for abortion rights supporters. I don't think there's enough votes to codify, man, unless something happens unusual in the House. I think that we're going to get very close in the House, and I think it's going to be very close. But I don't think we're going to make it. Yeah, they typically do have it queued up. The Blaze is usually pretty good about that.
But
Mr. President, what should Americans expect from Congress as it relates to abortion rights after the midterms?
I don't think they can expect much of anything other than we're going to maintain our positions. I'm not going to get into more questions. I shouldn't even answer your question. No, I don't think that. I don't think there's enough votes to codify unless something happens unusual in the House. I think we're going to get very close in the House, but I think it's going to be very close, but I don't think we're going to make it.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you. That could.
I'm not even supposed to answer any questions, man. Can you... I hate to do the shoe on the other foot argument, but could you imagine if that was the other way? If the Donald had refused to answer questions? They'd be all over it. The FTX thing. I'm going to gloss over this one. I know that Stephen Ignoramus went into a long tirade about this yesterday, and I listened to most of it. But I don't know enough about this. By the way, the rail strike is back on too. I'm going to put a pin in this for tomorrow. But the FTX thing, I do need to research that more. I really do. Because I don't know enough about it to speak intelligently about it. I'm going to say that right off the bat. I mean, hedge fund billionaire who donated a bunch of money to Democrats and had a bunch of them going in there using his pump and dump coin to go back and run. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised by any of this either. I mean, we should have all seen this one coming. But I'm going to research that a little bit more before I get into it. Let's see what I could do. So this one came up from the New York Times, and I do want to do this one. The New York Times tweets out, the FBI had as many as 8 informants inside the Pride Boys in the months around the January 6th Capitol Selfie Fest. Recent court papers indicate raising questions about how much federal investigators were able to learn from them before and after it took place. I want to thank Arvold here, by the way, for bringing this back out to my attention in a quote tweet last night while I was having insomnia. And a lot of people are pointing this out too. If they had agents undercover, why was there no extra support ready for the storm of the Capitol? Yeah, they knew it was coming. Or why was it allowed to happen for the bad press? Or was it to cover up the fact that the FBI is pro-Democrat? Another question, that was my question. Why were there no attempts to stop it? More people. Fed. mentally ill guy. Pretty much how it goes, too. So they let it happen. Well, that's disturbing. You don't say. My question with that is, why did you need 8? First off, that's the first question that everybody should be asking about this. And the second big question is this a plan? I've had my questions about the Pride Boys. Right from, well, not from the beginning. I actually believed their crap for a while. I didn't believe like the message that they're putting out there, but I believed that they were a legitimate far-right organization. Not white supremacist, obviously, because of Enrique Tarrio's swarthy skin. But I did believe that they were a legitimate organization trying to raise the profile of men actually being men and not being sissified pansies. I believe that message was a part of their message, but the more and more that I see of them, the fact that when something like the St. Jacob incident happened and the Pride Boys were there within a couple of hours, when they were in Minneapolis within a couple of hours to spar with Antifa, I think that they are plants, and I think Antifa is too, by the way. I really do. Because you'll notice that we still have shootings out there, police-involved shootings, but, you know, we don't get the riots off of those. But interestingly enough, this is also not coming from Conservative Brief, or the Federalist, or the Gateway Pundit. This is coming from the New York Times. And I archived this, and I want to read a little bit from this. FBI had informants in the Proud Boys, court paper suggests. Yeah, well, this is from Alan Fewer and Adam Goldman. The FBI had as many as 8 informants inside the far-right Proud Boys in the months surrounding the storming of the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Recent court papers indicate, dude, 1 informant is a fact-finding mission. 8 is an op. The existence of the informants came to light over the past few days in a flurry of veiled court filings by defense lawyers for 5 members of the Pride Boys who were set to go on trial next month on seditious conspiracy charges connected to the Capitol attack. In the paper, some of which are heavily redacted, the lawyers claim that some of the information the confidential sources had provided to the government was favorable to their efforts to defend their clients against sedition charges and was improperly withheld by prosecutors until several days ago. In a sealed court filing quoted by the defense, prosecutors argued that hundreds of pages of documents related to FBI informants were neither suppressed by the government nor directly relevant to the case of the Proud Boys facing sedition charges, Tarrio, the group's former leader, Biggs, Ethan Nordine, Zachary Rail, and Dominic Pizzola. Because all of the material remains under a highly restrictive protective order, it's not possible to know what the informants told the government about the Proud Boys' role in the Capitol Selfie Fest or how the information might affect the outcome of the trial. A closed court hearing was held on Monday to discuss the informants in the Federal District Court in Washington. Lawyers for the Proud Boys have asked Judge Timothy J. Kelly, who's overseeing the case, to dismiss the indictment, or at least delay the trial to give them more time to investigate the newly revealed informants. Judge Kelly made no decision at the hearing, according to a notice placed on the docket after the proceeding ended. Because it was sealed, journalists were not allowed into the courtroom. The dispute about the informants and the Proud Boys came on the heels of revelations that the FBI had well-placed sources in the inner circle of Stuart Rhodes, the leader of the Oath Keepers, another far-right group that took place in the Capitol Selfie Fest. Last week, lawyers for Rhodes and 4 other Oath Keepers who were being tried on sedition charges planned to call the informant, Greg McWhirter, the group's former vice president, as a defense witness, believing that his testimony would bolster their case. But on the eve of the planned appearance, Mr. McWhirter suffered a heart attack and the defense put other witnesses in his place. Oh, really? Oh, he had a heart attack right before he was set to go and testify as an FBI informant. Oh no. Oh, wow. You don't say. I don't know, dude. There's so much going on with this. My assessment of the Capitol Selfie Fest is this. Number one, it happened. We all saw it on camera. I had tweeted out at the time. The revolution will apparently be televised. One of my best friends in the world was there, filming. So something did happen that day. As far as what happened and how it happened, I don't buy the official narrative that it was just a bunch of people who were riled up by Trump to go, and he stood out and gave a speech and says, "Okay, everybody, let's go storm the Capitol. We're going to go and take it. It's going to be ours. Go unarmed. There's military there. You'll be fine. The power of MAGA will protect you." You know, that's what the official narrative is. What I do believe happened is the vast majority of people who breached the grounds and breached the Capitol were MAGA supporters who were fed up with the current paradigm and the way that the country is going under, or was set to be going under Biden, and the fact that they lost. But the people at the front who busted the windows, who broke open the doors, or got let in cases otherwise, were, in this situation, informants. People from the other side. And once the front people who were leading, the charismatic FBI informants, got through, there was a lot of monkey see, monkey do, and everybody went pouring in behind them, is what I think happened. I don't think that there were 600 FBI agents out there that poured into the Capitol, but you don't need 600. You need like 12. Maybe a little bit more. Let's go 20. If you've got a crowd of 600 people that you want to storm into the Capitol, you need like 20 agents to come out there and, "Hey, let's go inside. No, we have to go into the Capitol." And for the most part, the majority of the people that were in there just kind of stood around and looked at each other like, "Oh crap, what do we do?" They stood in the rotunda, looked around. A lot of them said, "Huh, I'm in. Now what?" And then the police started filing them out. My friend Mr. Ignoramus assuring us that he would be one of the last people in the rotunda as they started filing people out. And it's interesting too, like his original YouTube got banned, his Instagram got banned, his Twitter got banned, places where this was all live streaming out too. Periscope, Periscope is down, so he was banned from Periscope, but that went down. His DLive, I think, got banned. All the stuff that actually has some record of what happened here got banned, and we're not able to see people just milling around like, "Oh crap, what do I do?" Instead, we're forced to see pouring through the windows, busted out, congressmen hiding on the floor. And that scene from the rotunda will never ever be witnessed. Do we have time to catch one more here? I think we can get one more. Let's just talk a bit about this before we head out of here for the day. From Breaking 911, breaking. Trump failed to comply with subpoena to testify. January 6th panel says. Who was surprised? Anybody? Nobody? Raise your hand if you were surprised that this was going to happen. Sounds like if he holds out the clock for a few months, there isn't going to even be a panel to attest to. But again, and this is part of the reason that I'm very wary about what's happening with Andy Biggs and Kevin McCarthy, is because if Pelosi is the speaker, she will continue the January 6th committee, even if there aren't the votes to keep it up. She will keep it up. She will keep it appointed. she'll still be in charge even without the votes to do so. But if they can manage to eke her out of that seat, even by one vote, then there's not going to be a committee for Trump to testify to. From the Hill, January 6th panel weighs next steps after Trump fails to show for deposition. From Rebecca Beach. The House committee investing the January 6th selfie fest on the Capitol says it's considering next steps after former President Trump failed to appear for his Monday deposition following a subpoena last month. In a joint statement, Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney, the panel bashed Trump for filing a lawsuit Friday challenging the subpoena, accusing him of hiding after he was compelled to appear for testimony on Monday. Even though the former president initially suggested that he would testify before the committee, he has since filed a lawsuit asking the courts to protect him from giving testimony. His attorneys made no attempt to negotiate an appearance of any sort, and his lawsuit parades out many of the same arguments that courts have rejected repeatedly over the last year, the two said in a statement. The truth is that Trump, like several of his closest allies, is hiding from the Select Committee's investigation and refusing to do what more than 1,000 other witnesses have done. Well, yeah, I'm sure that they want to pull him into a closed-door room and record everything that he says so they can come back and selectively edit it. The committee has in other cases extended deadlines for those who have engaged with it, and has likewise acted swiftly in cases where people have defied subpoenas, including forwarding votes to hold those such as former White House strategist Steve Bannon in contempt of Congress. In the days ahead, the committee will evaluate next steps in the litigation, and regarding the former president's noncompliance, Thompson said, excuse me, Thompson and Cheney wrote, "It is unclear if the committee would move to hold Trump in contempt of Congress while Democrats remain in control during the lame duck session, or if the Department of Justice would pursue the recommendation. But the DOJ, in this instance, won't move swiftly enough to aid the committee, which is due to sunset at the end of this Congress and holds little chance of being revived by Republicans should they overtake the House, as is expected after last week's midterms." Which is probably why he did it. I'm sure he got the piece of paper, he gave it the finger, and he went out and he played golf again. I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't. If they really wanted his testimony, by the way, and this is the thing, this is the big thing with this, if they really wanted his testimony, they would have asked for it in May, when they started this thing. They would have done the subpoena all the way back in the beginning. Because they knew. They knew that they were likely to, even by the narrowest margins, lose the House. I think they were expecting to lose it by more. And they wanted to throw one last Hail Mary up so they can come back and say, "Orange Man bad," one more time before he announces his run for the presidency. Let's look at Twitter trending and head out of here for the day. Got a bunch of notifications today, too. Alright, Twitter trending today for November 15th, 2022. Top trending, Ticketmaster. Trending with TS The Eras Tour. We'll do the top 5 Twitter trends as usual on Tuesday, and we will skip Tuesday Vibe, Tuesday Motivation, and Tuesday Thoughts. So Ticketmaster is trending, possibly because people are starting to get ready to go buy tickets for Taylor Swift. I'm pretty sure that our friend Sully Blue is out there too. By the way, Sully Blue, if he's watching now while he's driving, I sent him a DM on Instagram last night letting him know, but we did start The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which was his request last night on Ed's World Gaming. I don't care if people disagree, but Ticketmaster should decide verified fan by having people link their Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube accounts to show if they actually listen to or are a fan of the artist. Gorgeous, gorgeous girls get waitlisted by Ticketmaster for the Taylor Swift verified fan presale. 8 billion people in the world, and every single one of them is ahead of me in the Taylor Swift Ticketmaster queue, apparently. So it's looking like, well, I'm sure that there was a lot of demand for the Taylor Swift ticket. She is one of the most popular pop artists in the world. I'm not a necessarily big fan of hers, especially the new stuff myself. Yeah, Taylor right now watching millions of dollars roll into her bank account while fans fight for their lives on Ticketmaster. Probably. Because I'm sure there are a lot of people that are desperate to come and get this. Taylor Swift broke Ticketmaster. I wouldn't even try, yo. Live footage of the Ticketmaster deciding who does and doesn't get pre-sale. And it's Taylor and DeGeneres. So, yeah, you can probably imagine with that many people trying to jump to go get tickets that fast, that there are probably some problems there. Number 2 trend today. We will skip Tuesday Vibe and America Recycles Day. It's America Recycles Day. As both climate change and waste are ever-growing problems around the world, it is of great importance to understand how these two major issues are also affecting each other. There's going to be a lot of green stuff in this and a lot of climate change stuff with this. And I am, by the way, a big fan of recycle, especially with metals, because you get a bunch of money off of those. And it is much easier and much safer to go back out and re-refine metals than to go back and get more ore every time you need them. Now, yes, there are people who are going to be doing the career of mining ore, either in this country or in a third world country, for the rest of their lives. But still, it's easier, safer, and cheaper. That's why they pay out for this stuff, because it's so much cheaper to go back and re-refine your old brake rotors, your old thermostat housing that's aluminum, your cans, and things like that. I'm a big advocate of recycling. Paper, plastics, if possible, even though there's really not a place to go back and do most of that around where I work, where I live there is. Cardboard especially. Go out, get it all chopped up and made nice and new into new cardboard. And metals, because they give you money for them. Big fan of recycling. So today is America's Recycling Day. Here's things that can't be recycled. Greasy pizza boxes, oh you want to bet? Soiled paper towels, coffee cups, frozen food boxes, juice boxes, and milk cartons. Just so you know, all of those things can turn into compost. Maybe not the coffee cups, because those are a lot of times styrofoam. But the cardboard ones, yeah, you can turn those into compost too. Wonho is trending. I do speak Spanish, but not very well anymore. I'm out of practice. Wonho announces military enlistment. Pens heartfelt letter to fans. So apparently some K-pop star is joining the army in South Korea. I don't know. I mean, I'm an advocate of artists coming out there and serving for times of need for their country. And South Korea, you know, I don't advocate for the U.S. involvement in the rest of the world, but South Korea is in a continuing war right now. So that is him serving his country in a time of war. I think that's a good thing, especially rich and famous to the point where he wouldn't have to. I mean, you're not going to see a lot of modern stars today with their kids going into the military or them going into the military themselves. You know who is notable in the military as a celebrity? Elvis. And as Salma Hayek said in Dogma, that is why he is the king, and you are a schmuck. So, he's going to do his public service, and good for him. Let's see. Arizona is trending for very obvious reasons because we are going to see a bitter fight for this one. Let's see. How red was Arizona in 2022? GOP Dems in House races by 6%. GOP takes 6 of 9 houses, flip 2 seats. GOP takes 16 of 28 Senate seats. Yee outperforms Lake by 5%, Masters by 9%, and Hobbs takes governor, Kelly takes senator. Make it make sense. Vic and Nance say just received an email, says the people of Arizona demand a new election or they're shutting the state down. Tim Young, shocking the person running for the election in Arizona, won the election in Arizona. And Wokeness says, Kari Lake would have done to Arizona what DeSantis did to Florida. We were naive to think that they would just let her take it. And on the other side, no lie, with known liar Brian Tyler Cohen, says Arizona will now have a Democrat governor and 2 Democrat senators for the first time in 72 years. In case you wonder how the red wave is going. So, that's Arizona. Number 6, which will be our number 5, Kyle Busch. Well, Bush is going, but Kyle Busch seems to be on the top of here. And Nikki drinking Busch lattes out of a makeshift garbage can cooler. The people's quarterback. Busch Light on the airplane. Look at that. Busch Light is real popular around here, and I don't know why. I've never tried it, actually. When I did drink beer, I was more of a Miller guy myself, but I know a lot of people like it. I know a lot of people sing its praises because it's cheap, it goes down quick, and it goes down easy. I might try it. I kind of want to try making my own beer too, but just to see how that goes. But yeah, apparently a quarterback drinking Busch Light on an airplane was enough to cause a trend. And a bonus one, number 7, because we covered this trial here and this happened in my state. The number 7 trending in the nation is Darrell Brooks. Let's not forget what Darrell Brooks did that day with an overhead camera. Brooks during the first victim statement. Brooks rolling his eyes and ignoring the people making statements while pretending to read the Bible makes me all kinds of angry right now. Apparently he is in the midst of his sentencing hearing, so... Brooks chuckling, shaking his head again. I do hope Mr. Brooks will use the Bible for more than a courtroom prop. Let's listen to that.
Free, he would probably not drive through another parade. But chances are someone so self-centered as Mr. Brooks will hurt other people again. The only life he seems to value is his own. I don't believe that Mr. Brooks will think about me or any of his victims ever. The feeling is mutual. I really don't think much about him now. But when the prison door closes on this felon, I won't think about him again. I do hope Mr. Brooks will use the Bible for more than a courtroom prop. He may want to start with the basics that I know his family had taught him, thou shalt not kill. But then you might want to read Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. Your Honor, I hope you give him the time to read and study the Bible. Mr. Brooks did everything he could to try to make the trial a circus. It is not a circus. It's not even about Mr. Brooks. Today the court will hear what the trial is about, the victims. Free.
Good speech. So yeah, he's going through sentencing right now. And you'll see a lot of videos, especially if you jump over to Twitter, you'll see a lot of videos like that. I'll probably look into some of them after the show. But we are out of time. So it's time to head out of here for the day. Where is my outro music? Did I close that inadvertently? Did I restart my computer and close it? Is that what I'm seeing here? Might have. Oh, I know what it was, because Windows Media Player jumped up after I plugged in my external hard drive because of all the music on it. It jumped up and tried autoplay from that, and I closed it from there. Anyway, we're out of here for the day. Thanks to everybody who came by and chatted in live chat with us. Everybody who came by and stuck us on point. It was a busy day as far as viewers here. I saw a bunch of people on the counter here, so thank you guys for that. A few new names as well, but we're out of here. Come back and join us here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. We'll be talking about, what was the one I put a pin in? Already forgot. Look at that. Oh, the railroad union, because, yeah, that's going to be coming down the pipe skin, and that's going to be on your supply chain issues in the middle of winter when it's cold and you want that hot chocolate or something from the grocery store. So definitely look forward to that. We will see what's happening then. We'll be back here tomorrow to talk about that and more. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.